Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Lots to speak about today. It's been at least a couple of weeks since I last recorded a video, and I've been meaning to record a video, but really, I've just been taking the opportunity to relax, and may as well just lump it all into one. The weekend after I recorded that last video was pretty goddamn awesome. As I said in that one, I was planning to go out to the Hiroshima Memorial. Uh, what actually happened is that one of my host's friends, who I did a day's work for, took me out to their family's yakiniku restaurant, which is basically like a grill your own meat restaurant. And now these things are pretty much my favorite part of Japan, hands down. I went there, and this family, who the day before I'd done a day's work for them, like I said, and I used a day of work in the most lenient possible terms. I basically just poured gravel or dirt into a machine, which then magically put the dirt across these trays, which are filled with seeds and dirt to make rice. And now I know how rice is made. After that, they put them in these fields and basically submerged with water, put a tent over it, and some other magical shit. But anyway, yakiniku restaurant. I went out there and they basically just gave me unlimited beer and unlimited meat, which is the most fantastic thing anyone can ever do for you in your entire life, as far as I'm concerned. And there's just like a grill in the middle of the table, which you put oil on and just cook your meat on for like a minute each side, kind of thing, or half a minute each side. And as the night went on, I got progressively more full and more drunk as they just kept shoving more food and drink at me. And they were like, "Chuhai, you want some chuhai?" I was like, okay, I'll take some chuhai. And that's the first time I've actually hiccuped while drinking in like a year. I used to hiccup every time I drank like a pint, and then I learned how to not do that, which is basically the art of actually not letting air get trapped in my chest, which is what seems to happen. I have a weird fucking chest which just traps air and I can't burp it out until I learn to do it. I have a weird thing. I don't burp. I just make weird reptile noises, as my friends from university will testify to. But anyway, yeah, the next day it went out and wandered around Hiroshima, saw the Peace Memorial, and went to Miyajima, which is another island. I'm not sure if it's actually a volcano island, like the one I saw in Hiroshima. I mean, like the one I saw in Kagoshima, Sakurajima. I don't think it's a volcano island, but it's certainly an island and certainly pretty sweet. The work at this host is fairly easy most days. There's a lot of egg cleaning, a lot of egg collecting. The one thing I will say that I don't like much about this host is the way they keep their chickens. They're in very, very tight spaces. I was actually sick on the day that they were slaughtering a shitload of chickens, so I didn't get to see that. But the other woofers who were here for just 3 days did see that. I did see one chicken that had been pecked to death by other chickens, presumably, because it's such a cramped space. So, not a big fan of that. It always seems the nicest people sometimes are not so nice on the inside. These hosts are really, really nice people. So maybe, like a lot of Japanese people, they just don't think that much about animal welfare, which is one of the negatives I can say about that country. I will say another couple negatives I've been thinking about now. Number fucking one is when you go into cities getting stared at. I mean, on most days, it's just funny, or after a while, people will give you all kinds of advice, like say, oh, just like wave to them, make yourself noticed, and they'll just look away, which they do. As soon as you make eye contact, they'll look away, and it's tempting to just make strong eye contact with each and every person that's fucking staring at you at the corner of their eyes, or like turning around once they've passed you to look at you. But you will, if you come to Japan, have at least one day where you just like, I can't deal with this shit. Just fuck off, everyone. Stop staring at me. You're really starting to piss me off. And that was, I had one day like that where I went out and I was extremely tired. I didn't even really want to go out, but my hosts were like, "Yeah, it's your day off. Where do you want to go? We'll take you out here." I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake." This weekend I'm probably just going to rest because I am very, very tired this week. I was like, the other thing I don't like about Japan, the quite few things, the word "ne," the fucking word "ne." Everyone ends their sentences with "ne." And this basically is the equivalent of saying "right" or "you think so, right?" And like, I guess I'm the kind of guy, even in England, where I'm a little more. I disagree with that on principle of having to forcefully make someone agree with your opinions all the time. I'm the kind of guy who will often, in like, polite situations where most people, and certainly what I used to do, is probably just say, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah," if you don't really agree with something, but you just don't want to make the effort to disagree with them. I'm the kind of guy who will pointedly, not in a challenging way, but go, "No, I don't really think so." But because everyone does it, they will kind of always expect you to agree with them in Japan. Like the other day, my host was. They have these really, really bitter oranges here in Japan sometimes, and it is a trial sometimes to eat them. He gave me this orange, and this was after a really hard day, the hardest day I've done so far, which was yesterday. And I'm like choking down this orange, like, which is a fucking hard enough job after what I'd just done. And afterwards, and he loves these things. He's like, "Oishii, na, na, na," and I'm like, mmm. That's all you can say is just not particularly agree, just not say anything particularly positive. And like I say, on principle, I disagree with that. I don't know whether the word "ne" came first or the kind of cultural tendency that everyone needs to be on the same page, everyone needs to agree on everything, and nobody can disagree because that might be socially incorrect. They probably evolved in tandem, but I'm not a fan of that kind of culture myself. And the general cultural homogeny does seem to be a thing, more so in Asian countries. To make my own massive generalization, I certainly don't get. I I mean, I do empathise more with folks who get stared at in the UK. I was speaking to my friend on Facebook about this, but even in the UK, I don't think people get stared at quite so much. Maybe it's the equivalent to sort of 10, 20 years ago in the UK. I mean, I certainly know people who have that kind of attitude who, like I say, 10, 20 years ago, it wasn't, thought of much to say, oh, the Paki or the Wog, which for you Americans out there, that's basically a racist way to say, refer to a black person that used to be used in the UK. It just wasn't really challenged that much. In the same way in the UK, for example, my last host, when talking about the Thai guy, he said, the tiger. And even I've read on like blogs from people doing the JET program from Taiwan, who just will refer to other people as like the Brit. And for some folks, even today, that's perfectly acceptable. You wouldn't understand me when I have a slight problem with that. I think it's even not so bad to refer to someone as the British guy or the American guy, because it at least humanizes them a little bit more than just referring to someone as almost an object based purely on their nationality. Uh, like I say, that seems to be a phenomena more so of Asian countries than in the West. But it's a cultural thing, and maybe it'll diminish over time, especially if we have folks like me coming over here and interacting with Japanese people who, some of them have never met someone from outside the country before. That's why they're so goddamn awkward a lot of the time about it. And you just got to work through it, because it's not malicious most of the time. It's just the fucking way she goes, to steal a quote from Ray from Trailer Park Boys. If you don't watch Trailer Park Boys, then you need to do something about your life, man. Next thing, yesterday's day's work was fucking hard because we were like just plowing up earth, and this guy I'm working with, I like asked afterwards, like, how long have you been farming? And he's been farming 35 years, so it kind of explains it. But even after 3 months farming, I couldn't go half the speed he was going. Well, I was going roughly half the speed he was going at ploughing these fields. And after like 3, my arms were literally, I just could not. Fuck it, they were just so stiff. And then it was like, okay, now let's do the next thing, which is putting the basically what looks like a black bin liner over the top of these fields. And that was pissing me off because like every 2 seconds he came over to say how I was doing it wrong. Like, you've got to plough it flat along the ground. You've got to basically tilling up earth to put on the sides of this bin bag to hold it down, and it had to be taut. So he had to get lots of earth on there, enough so that a strong wind wouldn't blow the dirt away. But he also wanted the ground like to be nice and flat where you'd pulled the earth out of. And so I go along trying to do this while fucking exhausted, and also trying to do it fast, like he'd been doing before. And I just could not keep up in my exhausted state. And then afterwards, once I was done, I just did like the last bit just to keep up with him really, really fast. And then he goes along and does the exact thing that he told me not to do, which is like just pulling bits up with the back of the trowel and making it not flat. And I'm like, for fuck's sake. That's like, it's the most annoying thing when someone stops you when they do to tell you you're doing something wrong repeatedly and then goes and does it themselves. This is a typical thing of them just like assuming you're an idiot, and not just assuming that you're exhausted. It is one of the problems if you're woofing. Uh, People in Japan often have this idea that size gives you proportionate strength, regardless of level of fitness. And like I said, I've only been doing this 3 months. I did work out a bit before coming to Japan, but I've never been a sports guy. I'm more of a computer guy. Though I will say in these last 3 months, I've noticed now that I actually have biceps. They exist now as opposed to before when they simply did not exist. You can see here, I actually have something there, which is nice for me. I've never had much fitness. I used to be a lot more overweight than I am now. So that was actually one of my aims coming to Japan, is get a little bit more fit. And hopefully I can maintain that once I get home as well. And still got a couple more months of this farm shit to do yet. So it ain't over. Speaking of which, my next host, I've arranged to go to them on the 1st of May. So I'll be going from here next Wednesday, and hopefully that will give me a little more time to recuperate. And I've contacted another host in Chubu, which is near to Tokyo. This is the prefecture next to whatever the fucking prefecture that Tokyo's in. And they seem real nice, but I can only go there from the 1st of June. Which means I'd only be there about a week and a half before I want to go to Tokyo. So I might get in touch with another host to go to in May. I'm certainly going to start looking for them now because I have no idea whether my next host is going to be good or not. We'll see. And then once I get to Tokyo, I'm going to go to the UK embassy, see if I can get an extension to go to Hokkaido, which would be really freaking nice, but it all depends, and also money may be a factor. But I think now I should be okay for money if I want to do that. I might have to dip into my bank overdraft, but if I want to, I've got the option. The only problem is what I'm going to do once I get back in the UK. Anyway, that's that for now. Tonight I'm going to be watching One Piece, and since my hosts are out, I'll be cooking a curry for myself, which is pretty awesome. So cheers, and I will see you folks in the Times.